Hello, and welcome to episode 165 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how are we doing today?
Baruch Hashem, we're good. We're good. We could be better. Listen, tonight is Gimmel Tammuz, and it's 32 years. 32 is Lev, heart. Whew. You know, we live, and I was told somebody yesterday that every one of your descriptions of the Pos-cast, when you put a little caption on it, we talk about and of course discuss the Rebbe, which we do. We always talk about the Rebbe. We talk about it a whole year. But I don't know. Different people have different ways of dealing with this day, tonight, tomorrow. And we got to be positive. You got to be positive. If anything's negative, then it's a waste of energy. We got to deal in positivity. But I don't know. In some ways, it's difficult for me to just we talk about the Rebbe. We talk about the things the Rebbe taught us and that we do and why we do them and inspiration and we learned this Rebbe's talks and Maimarim and Sichos and it's fantastic. We live with the Rebbe. And, Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, the famous statement where he quotes the Zohar, that a tzaddik that passes away is in this world more than he was before because his soul is not encumbered by the body. And especially those that were connected to the tzaddik, and even the life of a tzaddik in general is not a physical life, it's a spiritual life, it's a neshama life, so much more so when the body is the soul is disconnected from the body. And it's real. It's not like it's not make believe. We really believe it, and we live with it. What's more real, the body or the soul? It seems the soul is more real than the body. But our reality is the physical reality, and so when it comes to today, and we're talking about Gimmel Tammuz, when the reality of the Rebbe's presence in the world definitely changed, and it says if somebody says nothing has changed, nothing has changed. Of course, it's changed. You used to be able to go and see the Rebbe physically, your own physical eyes. So you want to talk about what reality is the soul. That's fine. You can say the reality is soul, but there is another reality, and it's not fake. It's not like the physical world is fake, just the opposite. We definitely believe that Hashem made it specifically because he wants the physical world to exist. So when there's a separation of the body and soul, something happens. And it's like, so this, we're getting ready for the anniversary of that. And it's part of the story of the day. So it's a little bit difficult, but we can't dwell on it because dwelling on it is useless. It doesn't take you anywhere. So we look for invigoration to reconnect on a higher level and a deeper level. That's all I can say about that. I mean, we could talk about it for a long time, and that's why when you do stuff, when you get out and you do stuff, I'm always a big advocate of, you talk about what is, what could be, what should be, and then you deal with people, and you learn with them, and you do mitzvahs with them. It's a whole different story. Like Newbury Street. Now it's time for this Sunday Newbury Street update. So I got a message from somebody. He told me not to mention his name, but he's Lubavitcher, he's a chassid, and he's learning with this fellow in Poland. Yeah, he's in Poland now. He wants to get out of Poland and go to Germany. Whatever. Without all the specific details, but he was talking to the guy about putting on tefillin and being proud to be a Jew. And he told him the story about the French guy we mentioned last week. The guy got off the plane and said, you can put on tefillin here on Newbury Street, and it's okay, it's safe. So I just thought that was very cool, that this guy heard the story and used that story to inspire another Jew to be proud about their Judaism. I just wanted to share that with you and with the audience, because the point is that anything anybody does can have an effect on somebody else. So the fact that we're doing this, episode number 165, and somebody heard it and used one of the stories we told and use that as inspiration with somebody else, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. The Rebbe always said that. The Rebbe talked about this when he said when he sent yeshiva during the summer to places that don't have an established Jewish community, but the Jews are living there. And the Rebbe says, if you're walking down the street and you look dressed like a chassid, and there's some grandmother sitting upstairs and she's trying to explain to her grandchild what a chassid looks like, and they have no idea. And then she says, oh, look, there's two chassidim walking in the street. So two chassidim walking in the street, that was in 1950, 1960. Today, two chassidim having a Pos-cast, and somebody sees it and said, oh, here's a story, and uses it. Shkoyach. So, we're standing at the table, right? And right near the table, there's like this, it's a brick thing. It's about 5 feet in diameter. And it's like, you could put it, it's a round thing, and there's pottery, there's earth in it, so there's bushes in it and whatever. And so people sit on the bricks around it. And the table's right adjacent to it. And so I'm there and with my buddy Yonis and Binyamin, Jonathan, and I call out to somebody, are you Jew? A couple guys walking by, are you Jewish? They said, no, we're not. He said, oh, they say, so I'm sorry or something like that. And I said, oh, it's okay. We'll find the Jew. Like in that tone of, we'll find the Jew. And so sitting at that pot, that brick thing it's at a corner of my eye. It was a family. There was a mother, 2 young children, looks like a grandmother, and without racial profiling, but just giving my impression.
What are we talking about here? Your whole Newbury Street thing is racial profiling.
Total. No, not exactly. Anyway, but pretty much. So they look Indian. And so, and a lot of times families will sit there, they'll eat eat something or just rest a few minutes. I don't really pay much attention to them. And as I say, we'll get a Jew. The woman points to this guy who is a little bit obscured. Now, this guy is like pale face. He's not Indian. Indian, I mean from India, not Native American. Anyway, so she says, he's Jewish. And this guy I look at him like, I say, oh, come on over, we'll do a mitzvah. And he gets over and he comes and puts on tefillin. We put on tefillin. And he seems to know what he's doing. So I said to him, where are you from? He told me where he's from. And he told me he went a modern Orthodox school or day school. And he's saying Shema, and he pretty much knows how to do tefillin. And at that point, I'm like, what is going on over here? What is this? And I was sure that when she said, oh, he's Jewish, that he was nah, I don't want to do it, da da da. And I just do my thing. Come on over, do a mitzvah, take a minute, da da da. And he came over without any, just picked himself up and walked over. And I was flabbergasted, what's the situation here? And a little bit later, we'll get back to this thing. Another guy, he came by, and I'll put on film. He's from New York, and he's very familiar, but he was walking with a non-Jewish girl. Again, racial profiling, Asian. And I'm thinking to myself, and he knows how to put on film, and he went to some college where he was Chabad, and he used to do it, and I'm thinking, in my head, and I said, no, focus on the guy and the mitzvah. And then when he left, so Jonathan says to me, and says, why aren't you asking about the girl? Saying in Hebrew, Ma'im ha-chavera shelcha, whatever, what's going on? Is your girlfriend or whatever? And I said to him, I said, I could have done that, and where would it go? You're right, Rabbi, I'm going to tell her to go on her own. We're going to separate right now. That's not going to happen. So what starts out as a very pleasant, positive interaction ends off with a and every time it happens, which is not unusual, sometimes just, a group of friends are walking by, which happened also. You have a couple of non-Jews and a Jewish guy, and they stand respectfully and wait for the guy to, and I'm focused on the guy. I'm not even paying attention. At the end, I turn to them and say, oh, I realize these guys are standing. Thank you very much. And when they walk away, you can see how the guy is explaining to the non-Jews why he's doing it. So there's no question that, she's like, what did you just do? What is that? What's going on? So the effect of the mitzvah itself can do whatever it has to do. I don't think my active trying to say something that would, would be like a, drive a wedge between us. It's not going to happen. I don't think it's a word. So the best I can do is like, and I say, our mission here is to do mitzvahs, get people to do mitzvahs, not to criticize them, not to make them feel bad. If they ask a question, you give an answer. But other than that, just stay positive. Put on tefillin. Try to tell them, next time you see somebody, put it on, whatever. That's what you do. And leave it at the positive. So I think it was very, and I think that's a lot of what the Rebbe taught us. If you want to get a Jew to, you can sit there and criticize the Jew, how bad they are, and you should do this, you should do that. Or you can do is invite them for Shabbos. Then invite them to put on film on Sunday. Try to get them to do more mitzvahs. And the light will bring, we always talk about the light chases away the darkness. And every time there's some kind of Jewish thing. But this works on a personal level. Fill the person up with Yiddishkeit, with Judaism, with Torah mitzvahs, and the negativity will, ebb away. Sometimes you have to talk about it, but always much better to go positive and bring light instead of trying to. We had these two kids walk by, and so going back to our friend who seems to have an Indian wife and children. What was funny is that the wife, after you put her on, she points to her child in the carriage. He's like 5 years old. Said, "Oh, he's too young to do it." And after they left, we looked at each other, me and Jonathan said, like, they haven't had the conversation about like the kids are not going to be Jewish if you like. I was so surprised at the lack of like what is going on over here. This makes no sense. I think this is such a big issue with Jews marrying non-Jews. It's a plague. I think everybody has to talk about it. It's not a rabbi thing. It's like every Jew who has Jewish friends. You got to talk to them, and don't tell them when they get engaged, don't get married. You got to tell them not to date non-Jews. That's where it always starts. That's the frustrating thing. There's no problem with intermarriage. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. There's nothing you're going to do about it. It's interdating that's the problem. Anyway, I don't want to talk about this. So anyway, so that was beautiful. These two kids came by. They were high school kids, and we're in a rush. They're not in a rush. It was 5 o'clock. They went to the Red Sox game, which started at 7. And so they both never put on film. They put on for the first time. They come from Greenwich. We took a picture. I sent it to my cousin once removed, who's the shliach there. He said, I got the kid's name. He said, what's his last name? I said, it's an 18-year-old kid. I'm not going to start asking him like details of what's your name, what's your last name. It's kind of creepy. It's good enough that I got the picture on my phone, got his phone number. I'm sending it to you. Just call him up and tell him, hey, look, you live in Greenwich. We live in Greenwich. He's not a child. He's 18. He's a senior. He just graduated. He's starting his senior year. Anyway, so that was a little bit of that went on at the Newbury Street update. Right. That's the story. So anytime we have an event happening, we always look in the parsha to see what's the connection. This week's parsha is Korach. Fascinating parsha. What's fascinating is that Korach leads a rebellion against Moshe, which is terrible. And they end up getting swallowed up by the earth, and the 250 people that join him they're consumed by fire. Like you, not like you. You just got a sunburn.
Feels like I got concerned. This one.
Everybody who watches, please send Seth advice how to not get a sunburn, because he doesn't know when and what. He has a whole story, and we're not going to get into it. But just send him your condolences because he's very uncomfortable, and send him advice about not getting a sunburn, how to deal with it when you get it. I think margarine works or something.
I mean, the real trick is just wear sunscreen and predict that it's actually going to be bright out, even though the forecast says it's going to rain and you don't think you're going to be outside all day.
Don't trust the weather forecasters. That's the bottom line. What do they know? What do they know? Hashem runs the world. They tell you 4 days in advance it's going to rain. What? When? Where? Back to Korach. So Korach leads a rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. How is that possible? Number one. Number two, if it actually literally happened the way it's described and there's nothing more to the story, why is it part of the Torah? I mean, which person would think it's okay to go make a rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu? The Torah says, no, don't do it because look what happened to Korach. Which sane person would ever think that that's okay? It doesn't make sense. Of course you don't make a rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. Any logical person knows that. So either Korach was a complete, absolute fool and an evil person at that, or we have to understand this story on a much deeper level. There's got to be something behind the scene that really is informative for us. And of course, that's why it's there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. If it's not a powerful lesson for us how to live our lives today, it shouldn't be part of the Torah. It's not a history book. Say, oh, look what happened. No, it's got to be something that is instructive for us. So what is instructive in the story of Korach? So if you look at it in the parsha, if you read it, even what the text, you read the text, there's something more there. Because Korach starts saying to Moshe, we're all holy, and Hashem is amongst all of us. Why are you standing above us, lording over us? Okay. In other words, Korach is saying that all the Jews are holy. That's a good way to start a conversation. Then Moshe says to Korach, look, Hashem chose you to be Leviim. From all the Jews, you got a special task to do. You're going to work in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan. And you also want to be a Kohen? Oh. So from what Moshe says, we understand that Korach was complaining, he wants to be a Kohen. And Moshe is saying, be satisfied with what you have. Then Rashi is fascinating, because then the next thing is, Hashem Moshe says like this, the 250 people should take pans and put incense on it, ketoret, with the fire, and the one that Hashem chooses will know he's the Kohen Gadol. The one whose ketoret is accepted. So what happens? The 250 men that take the incense, they get consumed by flames, and Aaron's chosen. Okay, that's so the test worked fine. But what Rashi tells us a fascinating thing. Rashi tells us that Moshe said to Aaron, to Korach and his 250 followers, supporters, co-rebellious people, he said to them, look, in other religions there's many gods, there's many temples, there's many high priests. By us, there's only one Hashem, one place to serve Hashem, a Mishkan, Beis Hamikdash, and there's one high priest. Then Moshe says, I also want this. So, and then goes on, go take the Keteris and you'll see who Hashem chose. Okay. What does it mean that Moshe said, I also want this? What does that mean? So the Rebbe explains, and because why would Moshe say that to Korach? I also want this. I also want to be and it seems that from this we seems that Korach not only wants to be a Kohen, wants to be a Kohen Gadol. So Moshe is saying, I agree with you. I also want to be a Kohen Gadol. Like, why would Moshe say, I also want to be a Kohen Gadol? So the Rebbe explains that there's different strata in the Jewish people. There's the mass of Jewish people. What is your mission? What's the mission in life of a regular Jew? To keep Torah and mitzvahs. In what status? As who you are. Wherever you are in the world, make the world holy by doing Torah and mitzvahs. Then you have those that are like separated from the Jews, like the tribe of Levi. The tribe of Levi was separated from the Jews. They don't work the land. They don't get land to work, only a minimal amount to support themselves, but they're not supposed to be in business. They're supposed to be dedicated to serving Hashem, whether it's in the time that they're serving in the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash, or the time that they're amongst the Jews and they're teaching them Torah. That's their mission in life. Then you have the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol is like he wears 8 garments, right? Instead of the 4 white garments that the regular Kohen, he has the added 4 garments, the breastplate with the stones in it, and the 3 other ones. And he also wears one of the plate, the gold plate on his forehead that says on it Kodesh LaHashem. mamish has the name of Hashem, which that means you have to be focused. In fact, in Halach it talks about that if the Kohen Gadol has to focus, he has the name of Hashem once on his head. Imagine what kind of focus we regular Jews have to have when we put on tefillin, has the name of Hashem multiple times and wearing them. But that's a side thing. Just the idea of concentrating, wearing tefillin. That in the yeshiva we were davened, and today was the last day. So the past, I think about a month, they had a minyan there because a couple of boys came bar mitzvah and with the parents. Very nice minyan, very beautiful. And there's one kid that stands next to me who started putting on tefillin. And I noticed, like before he was putting on tefillin, obviously I won't tell you his name. Before he put on tefillin, I saw like his davening wasn't so intense. Like he was davening, but he got distracted, and then he started with the first day he put on tefillin. He's like so into it, like saying every word. Like I was like, wow. Now I was like so impressed, and I said I never could imagine. I figured, okay, a kid's 12 years old, he's not into davening. What do you expect from a 12-year-old kid? It's not like they don't understand the words and the concept of davening. It takes time to get into it. Of course, in school they do it. If in the younger classes, if they're singing it together, so then it becomes like a group activity. But here it's a minyan, and so everybody they're davening. So I spoke to one of the guys who runs the minyan. I said you should sing more parts, and he added some parts for singing. A few more parts. So that was it. But ultimately, the kid's sitting with a siddur, and you expect him to be saying the words, and it's not going slow because we're doing the whole davening. It's not going fast, but it's not. You gotta constantly be davening. So it's understandable to me that a 12-year-old kid would not be 100% into it, and that's why certain parts you want to say out loud so that everybody joins together. But the day he puts on tefillin, it's a complete transformation. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so beautiful. The kid's really into the davening. And that's so powerful that the tefillin did that, because that's what tefillin is supposed to do. Now, not only that, but the Ar Hasidim, maybe other people too, they wear tefillin, they don't talk. They won't talk. Famously, there was one of the rabbis in the yeshiva in 770, Rabbi David Raskin, very famous chassid, amazing guy. So he wouldn't talk when he had tefillin on. But, he would daven, it would take time, and he's walking around. So if you wanted to say something, he would put his fingers underneath his shoresh and like lift it up. So he wasn't technically wearing it. So at least it was an awareness that, you don't talk when you have tefillin on. And so this kid's not, he's not talking, but it's amazing. It's just so beautiful. Anyway, so the Kohen Gadol is wearing the name of Hashem on his forehead, and he's in the Beis Hamikdash the whole time. Yes, that's like completely devoted to Hashem. It's beyond. Regular Kohanim work like 2 weeks a year because there's 24 groups, and they cycle through 1 week at a time. So he ends up like a little, maybe 2.5 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks at most, being in the Beis Hamikdash. So Kohen Gadol is there every single day, and he's wearing the name of Hashem. So Moshe said, so that's a whole nother level of devotion to Hashem. It's beyond anybody else. So Moshe says, I also want that. I also want to be on that level. Now, why did Moshe say that? Because what was Korach's problem? What was his issue? Well, Korach was not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He was a very holy guy. And Chassidus extols his virtue like way up high. But the problem is, the same we had the issue with the spies last week. It's not that they're good people. They're good people who make mistakes. And we need to learn from their mistake that we shouldn't repeat it. What was Korach's mistake? He said he wanted to be like a Kohen Gadol, which is completely disconnected from the physical world, even though when he goes into Beis Hamikdash, he does daven for very practical things as well. But his lifestyle is living way above everybody else. And so Moshe said, I agree with you. I want to be like that too. And I know that you want to become Kohanim, because it says when Mashiach will come, the tribe of Levi will rise up to the level of Kohen. So what Moshe said to them, I also want that, but there's only one right now. There's got to be a balance between how we live our lives and what our desires are. What is our dream? What's our dream to be? Well, we can't live that dream until it's the reality. We could say we want Mashiach, we want the world to be perfect, we want it to be holy, we want everybody to get along. We can want that all we want with our whole strength, for sure. But in actuality, Mashiach is not here. So we have to treat the world according to the way the world presents itself now. There's challenges, there's things we have to do. We can't just say, oh, Mashiach, and it'll be so great then. And like play like Mashiach is already here. Mashiach is not here. I mean, he's here. We don't see him. He's not revealed. So we have to make it happen. So that's what Moshe is saying to him. So Korach came along and said, look, last week we learned that the spies are going to go into Eretz Yisrael because they wanted to stay in a state of spirituality. They thought the Torah is spiritual. That was a mistake. We have to go into Eretz Yisrael, engage the physical world. Oh, so then the Korach says, if the physical world is what's important, and the physical mitzvahs that we do, then spirituality doesn't matter. So why Moshe Rabbeinu? Why do you make yourself greater than us? So that was also part of what he was saying. We're all the same. Hashem is amongst everybody. And so every mitzvah that everybody does is exactly the same. So why is Moshe Rabbeinu above us? And the answer is that no. Even though Hashem is amongst us, there still is a Moshe Rabbeinu. There is a Kohen Gadol that stands above everybody. And sort of we look up to that person. And when we look up to the person, we don't look up to the person. We look up, if somebody's 6 feet tall and you're looking up at somebody that's at 8 feet tall, what are you? You're looking up to him and you're seeing above him. So you're raising up your eyes, you're seeing higher. Moshe Rabbeinu causes us to look up to Hashem, not to him. It's not about him. Moshe was the most humble person that ever lived. He wasn't looking for adulation. He wasn't looking he wasn't trying to get likes on anything. He was trying to lift the Jews up. So you look up to Moshe and you say, oh, that's a better way of serving Hashem. It's a higher way. And so that was Moshe Rabbeinu saying to Korach the same thing also. No, there is a hierarchy in connection to Hashem, in a revealed connection to Hashem. Every Jew has to do their mitzvahs. That's important, of course. But then you got caught in the constraints of who you are. You need someone who can lift you up and give you, project yourself to a higher level, to go beyond who you were. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's the lesson we learn from Korach. We learn that every generation has a Moshe Rabbeinu. And that Moshe Rabbeinu is able to address us, who we are, where we are, and at the same time urge us to lift ourselves up and have a perspective on something much bigger and better than we have right now. And want it with our full heart. We want Mashiach to come 100%. But we don't sit there, we want Mashiach when it's not going to do it. Now we got to go on and do something about it. We have to do our personal service to Hashem, the people around us. I got a picture from my good friend Avram Ber Siegel, who lives in Silver Spring. And if you saw him and you say, what does this guy do for fun? You would never think he plays tennis. Okay, he didn't start playing tennis when he had a long Hasidic beard and a black hat. He did it when he was, in college, before college. But he's still doing it. And he showed me a picture of this guy who's playing, some older guy playing tennis with him. He's wearing tefillin, not playing tennis with tefillin on. But somehow he met him once, and now he schedules his tennis matches so he can meet my friend Avram and put on tefillin with him. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. We're not telling you, if you need to play tennis, whatever reason, for exercise or health reason, that's fine. Do what you got to do. Bring your tefillin along and help. Find people who can put on tefillin. That's what the Rebbe said. Pick yourselves up. I'm not telling you to change your life and to not live in this world. Live in this world. Live in this world. But see the goal that's right in front of your eyes. Do something that change the world drastically different. Make the world a drastically better place. And bring Mashiach to the world. That's the Rebbe's message. And every one of us does it in our own way. Whether it's in this medium, another medium, wherever you are, there's an opportunity to reveal Hashem, the oneness of Hashem in that part of the world through Torah and mitzvahs. And do it with your all heart, with your heart. Words that come from the heart enter into the heart. That's what the Rebbe would call that Gemara. I've said this before. When you talk to somebody and try to convince them to do a mitzvah and they don't listen, you think, the guy's no. If it would come from deep within you, it would enter deep within them. So we gotta be more sincere ourselves and try to dig deeper within ourselves, make ourselves better, make the world better. The should help. We should have Mashiach Mamish now. We should celebrate with the Rebbe in this physical world, which we take immediately now.
Amen. With that, thank you so much for listening to episode 165 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We will see you next week.